Welcome to this video on learning culture. It aims to suggest a way to strengthen a culture for learning. I will be presenting some topics that ought to be discussed to find ways to enhance it in your organization. But first, a few words on what it is and what benefits it might bring. My name is Dag Roll-Hansen. I'm engaged in learning culture through the global network of institutions for statistical training, or GIST, and I work in Statistics Norway. Culture can mean many different things. It is often defined as ideas, customs, and social behavior. It can be everything we do, as well as social and organizational structures that leads to a certain behavior, like making learning a normal thing to do. And this is the tricky part. How we internalize this, make the ideas our own, how we motivate staff to learn, give them intrinsic motivation, make them want to learn. Culture can also mean something that is growing. There are some advantages often mentioned in relation to having a learning culture. It makes it easier for the organization to adapt to a changing world and also increases interaction and exchange of ideas and experiences among colleagues. Enhances the institutional memory. People feel they are trusted, have autonomy, and a corporate identity, and they don't quit their job. Well, this is what we are going to focus on. I would like to draw your attention to 4 areas to discuss. The first is the environment, both the social environment, the interaction among us, our fears, and what drives our intrinsic motivation. And the physical environment, that training is actually available and that it is possible for staff to engage in it. Managers are important. If top management give their support to something, it increases the chance it will actually happen. Immediate supervisors must find out what skills are needed in cooperation with staff members. Also, they must make sure that staff is not overwhelmed in other work, not allowing time for training. Learning should always be guided by the needs on the ground. So, while there must be management support for training and an enabling environment, the decision on what training to initiate should depend on the needs of the individual staff member or team actually doing the job. Managers manage, but the task is easier if staff are pulling in the same direction. Motivating and making them responsible for their own development will make staff want to learn, develop, and motivated to contribute. It will make it possible to have a culture for learning. I will now expand a bit on these 4 bullets. First, we move to the environment. The environment consists of both social and organizational elements that influences our behavior. If we don't feel safe, we protect ourselves. If we learn that sharing knowledge weakens our position, we try to avoid telling others what we know. If learning new skills can help you advance your career, if it gives you praise, recognition, or an economic reward, this can motivate you to build new competencies. It also helps if you do not fear to make mistakes, if something you have made did not work as expected. If you need to hide your mistakes, no one else can learn from them. You need time to take training, not being soaked in 100 other tasks that should have been done yesterday. Also, trainings needs to be made available. Not everything is best learned while doing the job. Some statistical offices establish in-house training centers, create communities of practice, and build their own resource persons or experts. Also, more and more e-learning on relevant topics are available. Sometimes it is also necessary to bring in external lecturers or send staff outside to have training. So how should we approach this? I believe this can be best done through discussions on how to approach the topics mentioned, involving a broad spectrum of stakeholders in the organization. This could be staff members, trade union representatives, and managers. The next slides addresses other aspects of building a learning culture, how managers can support it, and how to identify and get the knowledge needed. We generally respect managers. We tend to respect the authority they have been given and the position they have. If they tell us to train and learn, we will be likely to do so. If managers do not engage, staff will understand it is not important. We work in hierarchical organizations where managers have the power to decide what other staff members should do. This, of course, also comes with an obligation to enable staff members to do their job, finding out what support and skills they need, and giving them time, resources, and autonomy to do their job. These elements are core to build intrinsic motivation, not only enabling staff to do their job, but also to make them want to do it. This involves identifying current and future skills needs and facilitating skills development, reducing vulnerability. This must be a joint, systematic, and involving process where managers and staff members get a common picture of competence needs. This is what we call strategic competence development in Statistics Norway. The bottom line is that there must be a discussion between staff members or a team and the immediate supervisor on what are the skills needed and how to acquire them. This also includes identifying obstacles to training and overcoming them. People learn on the job, in interaction with others, and through formal training. There is not always a clear distinction between these types of learning, but most learning happens when doing your job, and this type of learning should be considered when building a learning culture. So, how can we help build a culture where people like to learn while doing their job? This is, of course, related to the previous argument about creating a supportive environment and support from managers. The final and maybe most important thing I would like to say about strengthening a culture is that you need to have people with you. You can tell people to change their norms and behaviors, but you are not likely to succeed if they are against you. Sometimes management thinks staff are lazy and incompetent, while staff feel they have too little to do, want to do more work, and fear management. Both may be totally valid descriptions of the situation seen from two different perspectives. So how can we overcome this gap? The more you expect from people, the more they are likely to give you. If you are expecting nothing, you may not get anything. When staff members are encouraged to reflect on their own strengths, how they can best contribute, and what skills they need to do so, they envision having interesting tasks, autonomy, and a future career. It is easier to manage people if they run themselves than if you have to force them. Hence, a focus on self-management may not only make staff more able and willing, but also reduce the burden on managers. This can be done by giving staff responsibility for own career, learning, well-being, and motivation, and to enhance their commitment to colleagues and managers. The Statistical Training Needs Assessment tool, STAT, has some questions that can inform your discussions on learning culture. They are formulated as statements describing various topics that are associated with having a culture for learning. We can compare results on different questions, trying to identify where we are doing the best and where we have challenges. We can also compare results in different parts of the organizations, finding what unit can learn from others. When more NSOs have done this survey, we can also compare the situation in sister organizations. The statements staff are asked if applied to their situation are related to how problems are dealt with, if they are an opportunity to learn instead of being something you need to hide to avoid punishment. They are also about getting the skills you need, discussing challenges with colleagues, and helping others. Managers are asked if the organization helps them to discuss development needs and provide training for staff, encourage experimentation, and listen to ideas. They are also asked if the organization supports them to lead by example, have experts share their knowledge, and have training during normal working hours. Well, now it's time to discuss. Enjoy. Here you can find a list of further reading for inspiration.